Pecha Kucha 160, Inktober Week 3, and The Tick. I haven't got enough time in this Pecha Kucha to gush about The Tick in its entirety. It was something that I was reminded about by Comic Tropes. Chris from Comic Tropes did he spoke about The Tick and Ben Edlund's initial creation of the character and his starting run, which is effectively, I just went into a comic book store, checked if they had it, they did, and I've been laughing out loud ever since, basically. I watched the cartoon growing up, never read the comics, and the introduction to this book actually talks about how difficult it was for them to get this in reprints, because it was initially created out of all kinds of stuff that is not technologically compatible with just, say, having PDFs. So I feel most fortunate to have been able to read The Tick. And who is The Tick? We don't know. He starts in a mental asylum, breaks out, has no real sense of self, is very fond of internal and external monologues, talking of himself as a superhero who needs to go do something. And there is kind of pullouts in between the issues where there's kind of fillers, fake adverts. How to draw the tick, a fake exercise in how to draw the tick is something I mimicked in one of my Inktober pictures this week. I find the humor in this book very, very delightful. In one of the first issues, Tick meets basically a fake Superman called Clark Oppenheimer. He then follows him to his place of work, makes loads of jokes about the fact that he's... I can't remember what he's called in this, something like Wonderful Man or whatever. They get on each other's nerves, and then Tick does what he does. He walks away, story unresolved. And then, with no subtle undertones to referencing Frank Miller's work, Tick meets a totally not Elektra on the run from some ninjas. Because she has a MacGuffin of great power and the ninja chief wants it back. And the ninjas are inept in this until they actually manage to poke Oedipus, as the fake Elektra is called, with a sword. Things get kind of serious. This is the first and maybe only time in the entire book where blood is drawn. The Tick is also wearing a tuxedo for reasons that totally make sense. And he kind of has to sober up a little bit, but not for long. Arthur also, the Tick's sidekick, shows up at this point in the series to make sense of the complete nonsense that has been the series so far. And I won't even have time to talk about Paul the Samurai, but know that he is awesome in his own unique, ridiculous way. Later on, the Tick is having trouble finding supervillains because there are too many heroes. There are companies out there that have fake superheroes who will basically go down in a fight on cue to give the hero something to do. Something from the cartoon that is probably the only thing directly referenced between the two is Chairface Chippendale, the supervillain with a chair for a head. His master plan to draw his name on the moon does go about pretty much the same as it does in the cartoon. He gets CHA done, then gets stopped, and that's the last we see of him. One of the best stories is when the Tick finally gets to New York, where all the superheroes are. There is another superhero called the Tick, and they have a fight, and the blue, our main hero, wins and gets access to all of the other Ticks, effectively his Batcave, and he goes very insane, the other Tick, and it's delightful. I just want to do what Ben Edlund has done, copy it wholesale and make that my career too. So Inktober, last Saturday I drew Prime with a ruler. It's a lot cleaner. I should try this more often. Using tools to make my work less shit, it's not a bad idea. Speaking of tools, when I was at work on Monday, I was drawing guns. Why? Because I don't know how, and someone very wise told me if you don't know how to draw something, draw it, and then remember. So maybe not the best thing to be doing in a fucking canteen at work, but I still know it made sense to me. Tuesday, just ripping off the Tick joke with Batman. Because, I actually haven't drawn Batman for Inktober yet. Isn't that crazy? I'm always making jokes about how all I want to do is draw Batman. Yeah. the production value of my work is not particularly high when I'm doing stuff in the office. So I decided when I was trying to draw Thanos that I'd try and do the best I could, make it a close-up so that I don't have to worry about the fact his proportions are difficult to deal with and my line quality is poor, etc., etc. I very do much like Thanos as a character. I find he's very well written in the few stories I've read. I was referencing how to draw genes, and then so I was looking at 2 pictures, third one is me, and I just thought, who's going to model my genes? Venom's going to model my genes. And then I thought, how could I not share this with the world? So I did. I was totally going to do something else later the day, but you know how it is. And then I had the great idea of doing something with boots. That made me think of Deadpool, and then I had the idea to kind of mimic the bullseye picture I did last week and have Deadpool come along and screw things up, which I'm happy. Deadpool is a very, very fun dude. Googling him was a mistake because I just found so many great images. And then yesterday, I referenced my favourite film, Oldboy. This is the bit where he's smiling, looking at a picture, smiling right before he gets gassed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the film. It's great. Or not, I don't care. It's my film. It doesn't have to be yours. And something else from the tick in the back, because there's a few additional things, is this dystopian future double page, it's like 4-page story of a nuclear holocaust where all the humans have died and now the animals can talk, a bit like Planet of the Apes. Spoilers, it's basically a dystopian take on Yogi Bear, as the captain of this floating ship is Yogi, his first mate is Boo Boo, and the person who they will now revere in their new religion is the guy from Yellowstone Park, the ranger. I don't remember what his name is. So no sad clown of the week this week because there's too many sad clowns, with Brexit and all of this. So here comes the last week of Inktober. I have to figure out how I'm going to keep the productivity levels up and also increase the production quality without actually having more time available. That brings us to the end of Pecha Kucha 160, and I'll see you next time.